Well, and that's very interesting because I think you guys are doing something pretty remarkable, which is now you're building AI governance capabilities that help organizations actually
Mhm.
govern their own AI,
Yeah.
which is a fascinating recursive problem, right? You got AI to govern AI. How do you think about that responsibility?
I mean, it's a reality in the same way you build software. You build software and to automate. Now, let me rephrase that. I think the responsibility is that like there are two sides that every organization has to deal with. Was one is the adoption of AI simply because it's a new transformative technology, but also that like the organization has to make sure that the use of that AI aligns with their security posture and ultimately through the goals and their values. And the remarkable thing with AI governance is that so everyone needs the software in some ways. You know, you may be a chief legal officer, if you're a GC, you may be head of compliance, head of audit, head of security, maybe a CISO. And everyone sort of like has that demand, they have that need for it and it's so early in the game that we don't know sort of who will be sort of the primary coordinator or buyer of AI governance or ultimately responsible. If I were to make a bet, I would actually bet that AI governance goes the way of CISOs. And so if you remember, uh, I guess almost a decade ago at this point, when GDPR was passed and came into effect, it was sort of the ultimate elevation of the CISO because data security, data privacy took a central role in increasingly digital world. My bet is we're going to see the same thing with AI. That CISO, whoever ends up being ultimately the chief AI or AI governance officer, will have that same responsibility as a CISO because it is so central to everything that we do, where every single function, whether they want to or don't want to realize or don't realize it, they'll be using AI for everything that they do. And understanding that how you use AI aligns with your responsibilities, your fiduciary responsibilities, the risk posture of your company, and sort of like protecting those interests, the company's interests, the stakeholders' interests, is as or more important than the CISO's responsibility.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it will end up in that CISO perspective. This is,
Yeah.
it is a security issue after all.
Mhm.
I know that you guys did
Uh,
a lot of
I wanna
research.
hey, I wanna interject there just it's not just the security, sort of in the say it's not just security, but it is sort of alignment with goals, and so if you read through the EU AI Act, it's about security, but it's secure in a very specific lens that people again, it's people that's at the company, outside the company, interests, especially sort of human rights, privacy rights are honored. And then when you get into like the purely sort of outside the regulatory framework, that's where the security aspects come into play. So it's not just security. And that's why this is so important because this is changing the world. And so it's security and sort of the rights of people, the people that are affected.
Yeah. Now, as we've talked about, most companies are deploying AI somehow these days. And I think a lot of your own research shows that almost no company has really good visibility into how it's being used internally. And I talked to other
Mhm,
companies
mhm,
and they say that too. They were surprised by the fact that, there are 13 different, tools being used by, their organization, and they had
mhm.
no idea all this was going on. From a risk perspective, what's actually at stake when that happens?
I it's shadow AI, just like, shadow IT, from a decade ago. And so what's at stake? It's everything that we talked about. It's, appropriate usage, leakage of company data. Uh, and so and the only way to solve for this is to aggressively enable. The tool is so powerful, so relevant to people's jobs and what they do on a daily basis that if you don't enable it, people will find a way. They'll sort of have their own separate laptop where they copy and paste. If you think about the security risk when you're copying and pasting random things into your own personal chat GPT, where you don't have control. Well, you have control, but you may forget about the appropriate privacy settings. Uh, and so like the risk vector is, the risk vector is massive, and this only solution aside from uh, trying to lock down where you can is to aggressively enable.